Welcome to Michigan Reimagined, presented by T.A. Forsberg and Wagoner Financial. And here's your host, Chris Buck.
Spartan Innovations is committed to assisting technology startups here in Michigan, and here to share a story of a recent cohort and why it's important is the Director of Venture Programming, Mr. Tom Stewart. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I've had a lot of folks from the MSU Foundation and Spartan Innovations on historically, but for those who don't know, can you give us a super crash course on all of the tentacles of MSU's foundation?
Yeah, sure. So basically you can think of the MSU Research Foundation in three buckets, right? We have like endowed research, which is the most obvious thing we do, which is giving money back to researchers at MSU. We have real estate, so we own land like where McLaren was built and stuff like that, TechSmith here locally. So we do some real estate dealings as well. And then obviously the one we're here to talk about today is entrepreneurship and innovation. It's kind of that big third bucket. And underneath there, you know, we have a service organization, where I sit at Spartan Innovations. We have a couple of funds, Red Cedar Ventures and Michigan Rise, to kind of work with startups, not only on the service side, but able to actually invest in them as well. So that's the quick version of our startup ecosystem.
Got it. And not all of the people that are in your ecosystem need to be affiliated with the university. Is that right? I mean, a lot of it is, and certainly there's a leaning in that direction. But
yeah, I mean, I think that when we started, it was very MSU focused or affiliated focused, but you know, MSU is a land grant institution, the original community economic development institution, right? And so part of our charter, part of kind of what's in our DNA is working with the community, and that extends with founders and entrepreneurship as well. So, you know, several years ago, we decided to offer our services to more than just MSU affiliated folks.
And that goes beyond just the geography of East Lansing and mid-Michigan, right? I mean, doesn't MSU now have footprints kind of around the state?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So we now have presence in Grand Rapids with the Doug Meyer Medical Innovation Building there. We have an incubator space called The Bridge. We just landed in Detroit at the new lab space there next to Michigan Central. That's like new as of March 11th or March 8th. So really, really brand new there. And then obviously here in East Lansing, but we have partners even all the way up north in Traverse City and Marquette. So we can cover pretty much all of the state through our services. We have program managers and mentors and residents placed throughout the state to help us kind of corral entrepreneurs here in Michigan at the earliest stages.
So looking for startups and inventors and people with a product, it's important to have some sort of a vertical, and it seems like you tend to be in the technology, tech transfer space, and there's kind of three legs to that school, like InsurTech, MedTech, Fintech.
So there's some history there. I think, you know, Michigan's, I want to say, entrepreneurship ecosystem is still evolving and maturing, and I think we started out very industry agnostic. You know, we've been running most of our programs for almost a decade, and when we started, it was, you know, just trying to help any entrepreneur be successful. As we've matured and the ecosystem has matured as well, it's become apparent to try to kind of attack some verticals that are either strengths of the university or strengths of Michigan, sometimes both.
Right.
And, you know, Fintech and InsurTech kind of came up as one, as well as healthcare is a huge industry driver here in Michigan. So those are kind of some verticals we wanted to approach first. There's obviously many strengths that the university has, that they have several top 10 programs, and we're hoping in the future we can use this as a model to leverage all of that kind of stuff.
Well, I've talked about it before on the show, and it still is a little bit of a best-kept secret that we're a big insurance hub, one of only a handful around the country.
Yeah. 80% of the market, insurance market, is in the Midwest, and about a third to a half of that is here in Michigan. So it's pretty incredible to think about. Think about that. I mean, it's a huge economic driver for Michigan, and one of Michigan's best kept secrets, probably. It's a huge industry. We have major, you know, Acrisure and AF Group, Farm Bureau. We have major players headquartered here in Michigan and even in Lansing. So
right.
It's a big deal. for us.
So you recently brought in some startups from around the country. Talk a little bit about why you would do a cohort and what the goal is to host one of these.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, so the why was there was the, again, going back to it's a big economic driver in Michigan. It's also, there were people who were very motivated to get it going. We're partnered with MSU, FCU. The former CFO of AF Group is now at MSU's Broad School, was very motivated to get this going. Again, it's a strength of ours in Michigan, strength of ours at the university. So it made some sense. So that's kind of the why. And we have at the foundation and through our programs, we have the ability to build these types of programs around an industry. And then I guess the motivation, and what we're hoping for, again, is to try to make Michigan a hub or known, to make it not a best kept secret, to make Michigan a hub for InsurTech and Fintech innovation, and then pair these companies with the major players for pilots and first customers. First checks and first customers are always the hardest thing for founders. And if we can provide a space to be both, I think that's how we did attract, I think, companies from all over the U.S. to come, be a part of our programs here.
So these are people that already have a plan, an invention, at some stage of deliverability, I guess it is, right? And so your job at these cohorts is to help understand what they're doing, give them additional support, and show them kind of how Michigan might be able to connect them with the first customer, first check kind of a situation.
Yeah, we try to be like guides, basically. We always joke, or my little joke is, right, if you want to climb to the top of Mount Everest, we can help you get there. If you want to do a nice leisurely stroll around the lake, we can do that too. We really try to make a bespoke experience for each company, right? Even in an industry vertical, people are at various stages of development. The founders have their own skill sets and an experience that is not the same as one of the other founders. So we don't really do like linear programs or templated programs. We really we work within a framework, which is just the lean startup framework, and try to create, again, a very bespoke, customized experience to each of the teams. And then we coach them, basically say, what do you want to get out of the 10 weeks? We set some goals for them, and we marry them with where we think they should be too. And then we just help them, execute on that plan for that 10 weeks as best as possible, as quick as possible. And while, as you talked about, while supporting them with additional resources, whether that's mentors or pilots, or introducing them to the CEO of, AF Group, or the CEO of, Farm Bureau, auto owners, whoever, right? Exactly, right. So that's what and MSU, FCU has been a big part of that as well. So, that's basically how the program runs, again, in a nutshell.
So the hope is that the startup becomes proficient and prolific and does great things, but also they're meant to engage with our existing legacy companies. Yeah. They're not viewed necessarily as disruptors or people that are come in because it's really on the tech side, right? They're trying to, so like what materially, let's just stay with the InsurTech side of this. So we've talked about a bunch of significant insurance providers. What kind of technology might a startup have that might catch the attention of a Jackson or a Delta Dental or a AF Group auto owners?
One we're working with, they're not in this specific cohort we've had before, is like disaster relief. So, if you're making a claim and you're in a disaster zone, right, a lot of that stuff's then sourced out to call centers because it's kind of on demand, right? You don't always need that stuff, so it's shipped out to a call center. This company has developed a technology that basically is like an Expedia.com, but specifically on the back end for insurance providers, so that if you are displaced and trying to get your insurance to cover your extended stay at a hotel, right? You just log into the app and it automatically matches you instead of having to go through to a covered hotel by the insurance plan, and you don't have to mess around. Most of these people are already displaced and distraught, and then are spending hours on the phone
on
trying
hold,
to
get in touch with an adjuster. Right.
And then all of these hotels are booked because
right.
everybody's trying to find one. So this allows you to do it faster and then find, basically in network hotels across the U.S. even in case you can't, in your own state or in your own region.
Right.
And
that's no fault of the insurance carrier. It's just a matter of load leveling.
Right.
Or, it's like we need usually between 20 and 50 people. And because of this disaster, we need 200,000.
Yeah. So they all of a sudden they just call this on-demand call center. This will allow them to not need to do that extra capacity, so they get to save money, and then the customers are happy because they're getting placed and they can put in. They're better easily matched. So if you have a family of 6, you have 4 kids or something like that. There are different demands than if you're just a couple,
right.
If you're just 2 people or whatever it is, or if you're a senior.
Yep.
And so it takes all those things into account and helps place you in the right hotel in the right time that's also covered by your insurance.
Got it. It seems like that's a heck of a value add. If I'm, again, a legacy insurance company and I've got the local university's foundation spending all these resources, first of all, finding these inventors that are, developing technologies that are going to ultimately potentially help my legacy company. Is it hard to get their attention, or are they bought in? I know it's early. This is your first one.
The first one. And we've had a couple of insurance plays in our portfolio before, since we've been industry agnostic. It's a little hard to get their attention. I think everybody's, ourselves included, are still kind of uncovering how best to develop a pipeline to be useful and what minimum criteria are for them to be interested in the first place, right? So there's some, they want to be able to pilot this new technology, but also it needs to be in a certain shape for them to even if it's a smaller group of their customer base, it still has to, meet some minimum requirements. And so we're still trying to uncover what does that look like, how best to serve them, and how they want it to be presented to them in a way that they will be incentivized to take action, right? From our end, we're a founder-first organization, so my other thing is I also don't want our founders, to go down a wild goose chase, either, and be misled or have it take 6 to 9 months. Time is the enemy of the entrepreneur, so I want to make sure when we do this more officially with the pipeline that things are set so that the entrepreneurs and these legacy insurance and banking companies are everybody's on the same page and things can happen quickly if there's a match.
Yep, understood. Hey, I want to thank one of our sponsors here, Forsberg Real Estate Company. When it comes to creating the best living and working environments for the community, no one does it better than my friends at the Forsberg Real Estate Company. Brent Forsberg and his team create vibrant, holistic communities that inspire growth and encourage belonging. Focused on building stronger connections for people, the Forsberg Project is always in tune with balancing relationships to create the optimum human experience. Since the 1950s, Forsberg has been enhancing the quality of life in the communities they serve by following the principles of regenerative growth and aligning the resources and tools available. Reach out to my friends at the Forsberg Real Estate Company by calling 517-349-9330 or check out their website at lansingrealestate.com. So you mentioned MSU, FCU being a part of this. Why is that important to have a benefactor to I don't know, what is their role exactly?
Yeah, so their role, they're very, very involved. Their innovations group, and they have an investment group called Reseda Group as well. It's part of their organization. Their innovation group, a guy by the name of Philip Danielwitz, is very involved with us, sits in on the interviews and was helpful there. On the fintech side, credit unions are their own beast, whether it's a federal credit union or a local one. And again, equally important for the fintech companies to be able to have a pilot group to kind of engage with. And MSU FCU is one of the only, not the only, but one of the only ones with this kind of pilot membership that they can test new technologies on. We're co-invested in a handful of companies again before this cohort. We decided why not, make it more intentional and help us vet some of these companies with you, provide guidance and coaching so that they're in the right business shape for them to want to pilot. And the outcome here is the more they embrace innovation and new technology, the more attractive they are to their membership, right? And being
Right.
tied to the university and generally young people, because they're, again, a relationship with the university, a lot of their members, right, are going to be millennials and Gen Z and want, a more innovative banking experience. Now you have to compete with all of these online banks like Ally and lots of people are doing different stuff, and Chime, and trying to think of all these different online banks. But
Right.
there's competition here, and people have, now the new generation of folks have a different expectation when it comes to interacting with a credit union or a financial institution in general. And if they're not embracing new technology, then they're falling behind. And MSU has just been a great, they've always led the charge for innovation. We've been running these programs for about 10 years. They've been with us, as a sponsor or actively involved since day one.
Right.
They continue to be involved on the academic side with Burgess Institute there at Michigan State University too. So they've just been a wonderful partner on that stuff, and they just get it, which makes it sometimes easier to do. So.
No, that's great. So you obviously are, the first cohort's coming through the gauntlet, and you mentioned even off mic that you've learned a ton.
Yeah.
But the idea is that you're going to kind of rhythmically have these cohorts kind of come through and build momentum and learn from what you don't know, and get the insurance companies give you feedback once they kind of get presented with the final projects of each of these startups and stuff, right?
Yeah, we're hoping to do it once a year as of right now. If demand is there and sponsorship and money is there, we could do it more than once a year, but that's where we're going to start. And some of it, like you were alluding to, the delay is a lot about just making sure we're debriefing and understanding changes before we nail it, then scale it. That's what we tell our entrepreneurs too, right? Making sure we understand what we're doing pretty well before trying to scale it up to more than one program a year. We're still, and frankly, right, we're still working on getting an official insurance partner on the InsurTech side as well. So we'd like to lock that up before kind of expanding on it. But yeah, we're hopefully once a year. I think we'll probably keep it in the spring. We might move it to summer as we were talking about this again off mic as a talent attraction thing, so we can showcase a little bit. Since this program is our only program as of right now, that sources nationally, sources companies nationally. We want to do more to highlight Michigan's strengths as a whole. East Lansing and MSU, obviously, of course, too, but just Michigan as a whole, and summertime's usually the better time to do that. So we might
February.
Yeah, not February. So we might shift it to the summer so we can highlight some of Michigan's natural assets as well.
Right, because some of these out-of-state startups came in and were surprised and impressed with the cost of living and the beauty.
Yeah, they were blown
Michigan.
away by MSU's campus, I think, even in February, and so I think they were really impressed. And as we talked about, I think they were expecting a much more rural experience with farms and stuff, and they got here and they were incredibly impressed, and I think we want to capitalize on that in the next rounds and be more intentional about how we showcase Michigan's strengths to out-of-state entrepreneurs. Obviously a best case scenario is attracting them here and having them move their headquarters from wherever they are to Michigan, but at this point, I just want them to share that Michigan's open for business. I know that's an older term that we used to use here, but we want to, I think there's a lot of positives going on here in Michigan for entrepreneurs. And even if you don't want to stay here, there's a lot of help and resources that we can be a part of their journey. And it's not always about, I know there's a lot of emphasis usually on retention and things like that, but it's not always about that. It's sometimes just about being a part of their story and having them tell other people when they go back to LA or when they go back to New York, being like, wow, Michigan was really cool, and they're very supportive of entrepreneurs. And then, maybe the next person or the next person after that or the next person after that does decide to stay here.
Reputation,
right?
Changing the narrative,
right?
That's fantastic. Is there a way that people can learn more about your work at Spartan Innovations and the foundation?
Yeah, msufoundation.org is the easiest way. I think it's /Conquer-Accelerator, but you can go through the menus to get to the Conquer Accelerator in particular. But there's a lot of good resources on the foundation website, including events we do and other programs we have outside of Conquer Accelerator. Is just a good resource for everybody, and that's probably the best way to do it.
Got it. Well, we've been talking to Director of Venture Programming, Tom Stewart from Spartan Innovations. Thank you very much for being here. And I'd like to give a final shout out to my loyal sponsors, Forsberg Real Estate, Wagner Financial, Triterra Environmental, Good Marketing, and the attorneys at Foster Swift. These are fantastic people worth the call. And if you found the show as a one-off, I want to remind you that you can find and subscribe to Michigan Reimagined on YouTube, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and all of these places that you can find your podcasts. I'm Chris Buck, and this has been Michigan Reimagined.